Northern Vietnam was somewhere that I found myself wanting to go for a while. Cue the Ha Giang Loop, which as you can see is at the northern reaches of Vietnam, right near the China border. And looks like this. And yes, the reality is that it sometimes can be pretty misty. But it was an epic life dream that I had to ride along these passes for many years. Towering green limestone peaks seemingly at each turn on the route. And getting to live at the homestays of locals to really appreciate how they live their culture out in these reaches. It's a true bucket list experience that I really won't forget soon. But let me take you back to where it all began. Welcome to Hanoi. Hanoi is the capital city of Vietnam, and I flew here from Bangkok. I spent my first 2 nights at the Central Backpackers Hostel in Hanoi and was just exploring with fellow mounted backpackers that I met there. There was something beautifully intoxicating about just watching the locals go about their daily lives on the busy and bustling streets. The icing on the cake and the perfect end to my Hanoi experience was the mesmerising water puppet show that I saw at the theatre there, and it's a must if you're in Hanoi. And now, my friends, it's time to let you in on my journey and answer some of the questions I had myself before starting. Okay, day one going to Ha Giang. Just ordered a grab bike and it'll cost me like $3 to get to the hiring place. Wish me luck. Okay, so I mentioned that I'd probably be a millionaire for the second time in my life in Vietnam. That's 4 million dong, and that's going to be my pretty much equivalent to $250 Australian deposit for the bike, and then I'm going to pay about 300,000 dong per day. That's about 150 Aussie, so yeah, pretty good deal when you do the math. And to clarify, that was $150 in total for the 8 days. I would be renting a fully automatic Honda Airblade, and I'd be renting it off my buddy Lam, who I got a personal recommendation off. So go ahead guys, go follow Just Cruising Hanoi, let's go. Soon enough, I was on my way to Cao Bang, which would be a pretty long ride that day. I found that petrol was about 25,000 dong a litre, and I only had a 3-litre tank. After about an hour and a half or 2 hours from Hanoi, the scenery started getting really epic. The small city of Long Son would be the lunch stop of day one because it was about halfway of the 287 kilometers or 6-hour journey to Cao Bang. Locals seemed to be really interested in me, and the next 3 hours would take a few interesting turns. All right, driving for a bit, and then I realized I took the wrong turn, and that is the China border, so I'll turn back now. This just proves how close you are actually to the border on the ride. I am so close to the China border and I'm so damn confused, lol. Alright, so see these mountains behind me? That's China. They're the China border. So I'm riding pretty much along it, obviously still in Vietnam. I was pretty damn confused along that way and really had to consult my maps a lot. And a quick shout out to the offline maps app Maps.me, because it definitely got me through some trouble. But even though I wasn't yet in Ha Giang, the views were just sublime already. I was craving a big rest the closer and closer I got to Cao Bang, and I arrived just after nightfall and just turned up without a prior booking at Cao Bang Eco Homestay and got a good rest for that night. So the rough plan for day 2 was to make my way to Ban Giot waterfalls, which are right on the China border. I had a lazy start to that morning and contemplated my plans of the slow drip of Vietnamese filter coffee. Which honestly, Vietnamese coffee is world class. After getting the coffee buzz, I set out again for day 2. And the scenery started to change bit by bit. It was incredible to see all this farming going on beneath these beautiful green peaks. And it must have been really fertile soil here. If you've done the Ha Giang loop before, you'd realize that I was actually not there yet. I was doing Cao Bang on my way on a loop to Ha Giang. And there was a special reason why I wanted to see the Ban Giot waterfalls. So after paying the 10,000 dong fee that's customary for parking your bike in tourist attractions, I made my way to the falls. At only 40,000 dong or $2.50 Australian, the ticket was really cheap here. Alright, welcome to Ban Giok Waterfalls. They are the largest waterfalls in not only Vietnam but Southeast Asia, so pretty cool to be this close. Yes, by this point you're probably thinking, oh, the boats make it really, really tourist. But also not gonna lie, sort of tempted to hop in one of those rafts, so here we go. So yeah, I just went with it and spent 100,000 dong or $6.50 on a cool ride. This is definitely a good reward for the last days of really long riding. Wild! The raft terminal just behind me is got the Chinese flag there, so I'm literally 10 meters away from the border. Should I swim across? So even though I expected to ride more today and go further towards Ha Giang, I was content with just going back to the homestay. And this way I could catch up with my buddy Jordan, who just happened to be around Cao Bang. Oh man, was I in love with the culture of Vietnam. And I learnt that this area of Vietnam had millions of years ago once been underwater. It would end up being a really long ride from Cao Bang to the Ha Giang loop, but I loved riding through all the towns, and it was amazing seeing how patriotic they were with all their red Vietnamese flags out on their doorsteps. The ride would be filled with plenty of mountainous, curvy, sharp turn roads on my way to Bao Lac, where I would have a lunch stop. Could I get a dragon fruit? One? As I left Bao Lac and headed for Zuzar, or Tujia as I say phonetically in English, the scenery got amazing. But the consistent and constant riding was taking its toll. Oh my god, my butt hurts. And yep, you heard that right. The constant sitting on a leather seat just was getting really uncomfortable for me. And then the roads changed to gravel. But lucky I had the beautiful farmland and mountains to keep me nice and optimistic. Can you see all the potholes here? I think what I'll always remember as my favourite part of Vietnam was the friendliness of the locals. They were just so interested about foreigners in this part. How you going? And yep, the roads continued like this for a while. But hey, the roads are just part of the experience, and there was always a lovely viewpoint waiting for me somewhere around the corner. I'm sure that many people who travel swear by having all their accommodation pre-booked. But often on this trip, I would just simply Google a few guest houses, and then I'd just rock up at those guest houses asking them if they had any room for me. And I loved how incredibly simple these guest houses were, and having dinner around a small table with locals and getting to know them. After having a relaxing night in Zuzar, I would be heading to Mievac the following morning. And yes, although the views were a bit misty, it just added to the beautiful atmosphere that I was riding through. I would get shrouded in dust on certain parts of the roads, but man, the views were just simply unbeatable. I had originally planned on my trip to travel further today, but I actually got really tired at one point, and so just decided to chill at a beautiful panorama cafe at the Ma Leng Pass. It was here that I refueled with a deliciously spiced pho. And then spontaneously decided to venture further down towards the river and get a cruise, which you can do. I definitely recommend anyone who travels to the Ha Giang Loop and Ma Leng Pass to definitely do this cruise, because even though a tiny bit touristy, I think it was just amazing. And after this, I decided to retire back to Myanmar and have an early night and prep for the next day, where I would be going to Yanmen. So after a delicious breakfast pho, I was on my way again. Along yet more dusty roads, but priceless views. Along the way, there were monuments and museums that paid tribute to the very hardworking people who helped to build the Ha Giang route. So my objective today was to get to the Long Khu flagpole. As I was trying to map my way to the Long Khu flagpole, which you can see in the background of this shot, I stumbled among these amazing temples. And then it was time to get a view of the whole area, the Long Khu flagpole itself. Yet another breathtaking view in the background, right? And like a few times before on my journey, the mountains in the distance made up the border of China. So after seeing the flagpole, I decided to head straight to Yanmen because it was only about 1 p.m. in the day. And I would happen to stumble upon one of my favorite views of my trip. I witnessed locals do as locals do. I was getting closer and closer to Ha Giang. And I would also find out that there was a local tourist village that showed off the beautiful culture of the people in the mountains. As I got closer and closer to Yanmen, where I would be spending the night, it dawned on me that this beautiful journey would slowly come to an end. Out of pure coincidence, I would end up staying at Tom's homestay, yes, my namesake, and I would enjoy a private room to recoup. It was a bittersweet feeling on the morning of day 6, as it would be my final day on the Ha Giang Loop and this amazing journey would be coming to an end. And yes, you read that right, I'd be travelling to Hanoi at the end of this day, believe it or not, which would end up taking about 10 hours on my bike. On this foggy morning, I had my all too usual roadblock. It was pure heaven, riding through the beautiful green, lush pastures. And there it was. I had arrived in Ha Giang City, and the Ha Giang Loop had ended. From here, I wasted no time in soldiering on to Hanoi. It would be a further 280 kilometers and just under 6 hours driving time to finally arrive back in Hanoi. But I would find this ample thinking time to deeply reflect on how the Ha Giang Loop had been such a life dream for so long, and I had accomplished it. Over the last 6 to 7 days, I had ridden just under 1,600 kilometers through some of the most epic scenery I'd seen in my whole life. In terms of police checks and them checking for your license, which no, I didn't have an international license doing this. I'd only seen one police check, and that was between Yanmin and Ha Giang, and all they're after is a quick bribe, so feel free to just drive past. Late in the evening, I would roll into Hanoi, and that marked my official end of the journey. And honestly, I just laughed seeing all the congestion and traffic. It's not scary at all for me driving through it, I just had a great time laughing. Well guys, that is the end of my vlog on motorbiking the north of Vietnam, and in particular the Ha Giang Loop. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you didn't, hey, I enjoyed making it.